I don't have to be engaged and getting married. I don't have to be married. I don't have to have a partner. I can get an investment partner, a joint venture situation, but you don't just have to be in a relationship to afford real estate.
Welcome to the Build Up Podcast. I'm Priscilla Facey, founder CEO of Build Up Development Co., and we are here to talk to inspiring entrepreneurs about their financial past, present, and future. Learn the secrets about building wealth and stability from people who were exactly where you are now. Today, we have Blake Carter, radio host of the morning show on Flow. And I'm so excited to hear your story, how you even got to where you are, and let's chat.
Yeah, because radio for me was not my dream goal career. It's definitely not something I even thought about as a possibility. Obviously, you listen to the radio growing up, and I liked music. I love music, but I always thought I was going to be in acting. That was my goal. I'm going to be an actress. Like, you could never tell me anything different. And I randomly met this girl who was leaving her position as a receptionist at a radio station. And she was like, you should apply for the reception job. And I was like, okay, and it's downtown Vancouver, so then I can be downtown, I can go to auditions. But you can't go to auditions if you work a 9 to 5. True. So I got the job and I got into a radio station, and then from there I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, this might be something I could do. And so I started voicing a lot of commercials at the station, still doing reception, and I would just talk to everybody that came through the door. So I made friends with the morning show there, and they eventually started putting me on air as a character, the receptionist.
Okay.
And they like aired out my dating life and embarrassed me. But that's how the boss, the program director, heard me and then asked me to come back and start a brand new station in Saskatoon. So
you went from Vancouver to Saskatoon,
yeah,
so big
Vancouver
city to
receptionist to Saskatoon, small town, but now I'm on a morning radio show.
Okay.
With no broadcasting experience, nothing. And so I did Saskatoon for a couple years. When I got there, it was minus 52.
Oh my God. And your nose hair is free. So I used to work in government.
The worst.
They sent us to Regina for a human resources training. And I walked out 8 a.m. to go to this training, and I was like, why does my nose feel prickly? And they're like, oh, like
that's your nose hairs.
Minus 35 Celsius. Yeah, your nose hairs.
And your eyelashes, everything. Nice. It's brutal. So that was like my first taste. And then I went from Saskatoon to Calgary for a different morning show, and Calgary's just as brutal with the weather. And then finally got my chance. I'd never been to Toronto, but I just always had this feeling that's where I was going to end up. And I still had dreams of hopefully getting into TV. So I thought, okay, well, that's where MTV is and E-Talk and all of that. So that's what I initially kind of came out here to do. And since I've been here, it's kind of how media works. You tend to move around quite a bit to stay employed. And yeah, so I've moved around to a few stations here, and now I'm doing mornings on Flow with Peter Cash, who I love. And it's funny because when I first came here, I was doing evenings on a different station, and he was doing evenings on Flow. And that's how we became friends, because we were in the same building and we'd always work the night shift together. And so 10 years ago, we actually made a demo to do a morning show together. And it never happened. I changed stations, I went to a different company, and we didn't talk for years, and then somehow just how the universe works.
So, okay, here we are, you know, it's 2021. We're still not quite out of this pandemic. What are your thoughts? I mean, you work in radio, it's a 9 to 5, well, it's like a 6 to 2, right?
Yeah, the hours are kind of all over the place.
And so, what are your thoughts on, like, how has, I guess, the pandemic shifted things for you and your career in radio in general?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot of things. For me, I still get up and go do the same job I was doing before. Some of the jocks are just recording from home, you know, those who live with parents or have like different compromised immune systems. But fortunately for myself and Peter, we were the only ones going in still. So we kind of have the whole place to ourselves. But radio makes its money off advertising. So all those commercials that you want to tune out, that's how we're getting paid. So when the world kind of stopped and slowed down, a lot of people aren't advertising anymore. They're trying to just keep their business afloat and pay their rent. So they're not buying advertising. You know, people aren't driving to work every day the way they used to. So your listenership, it's crazy. Like, cause
I didn't think about that. I listen to the radio for the most part when I'm in the car. I'm in, transition.
Most people, you don't even think about it. You just get in the car, the radio's on, and then that's when you hear it. So now people are working from home, or a lot of people being laid off, or their hours have shifted. So there's not as many people listening. There's not as much advertising happening. And with the pandemic, it was with radio, you always need to kind of be on your toes and be conscious of what your next gig could be, because radio stations flip and fold so quickly. You'll walk in one day and they'll blow everyone out. That's just kind of common. But then with the pandemic, it was even more of a reminder, I need to have something else. Because if by chance we fold now, because we can't keep the station, thank God we've made it through so far, and there's been pay cuts and this and layoffs and everything. It was like, I need to have some other sources of income and I need to get them fast. And how do you do that during a pandemic when everyone's looking for work?
And this is the thing. I mean, there's so many people, we've gone through such a global just mind shift, right? Because you're in situations where a lot of people feel like their 9 to 5 is safe, and now because of COVID, it's just not. And you really realize how important it is to have financial stability, to have another stream of income, to have something else to fall back on financially, because your 9 to 5 could fold at any point. It's really interesting. I know we were talking previously, and you talked about living downtown and that you're renting, and you weren't always a renter though. I know, your dirty little secret. You used to own real estate at one point in time.
Yeah, that's just wild to me that I was ever that responsible and mature to own something. Myself and an ex went in on a place, and it was good at first, but...
First of all, where was this place?
Is in Etobicoke.
Okay.
So we had a pretty big condo. We got a 2-bedroom plus den. It was a really great size, but the relationship was kind of coming to an end, so we got rid of it. I thought it'd be better if we quickly sell the condo and then we can kind of end things. But we made some money. We didn't have it for that. I think we were only there maybe just over a year.
And how much money did you make from the sale of it in that year?
Maybe I don't even remember. Because we split it up, and this is, when I'm learning from you, I am so bad with money. I don't want to I'm always scared if I think too hard about it, I'm gonna lose it or see how far into debt I am. So we sold it, we got some money. Basically, we just had enough money to pay off each of our respective debts, credit cards and different things. And then we each split what was ever left and bought what we wanted. And so I took that money and I wanted to decorate my next condo and have it look all nice, because I've moved around so many times. I was like, I just want to make a home. I want to stop moving. And so I blew through it, took trips home. I bought myself a nice purse. And then, when that money's sitting there, you think it's bottomless for a minute.
Yeah.
When you get such a big chunk of money.
A large chunk.
And then all of a sudden you check your bank account and you're like, wow.
It's just going down. It's just a sliding.
I just took that all out with Uber Eats. It's all gone.
So you lived in a condo, you lived there for a year, and you probably paid similar to what rent would be. So you were living in there for the year, and you sold that property. It was enough for you to each pay off your respective debts, and you still had a nice little nest egg there. And you blew through that money pretty quickly just on living. And so I think the really important takeaway is, I want to help you understand that when you're renting, you're throwing money just down the toilet. You don't get it back. When you owned for that year, you made money. So not only did you cover your living expenses, you actually made money, paid off debt that had been accumulated, and still had cash left over. To accomplish that inside of a year.
That.
No, and most people don't even accomplish that from saving from their 9-to-5 job, right? And so that's a pretty powerful message in terms of what real estate can do.
Because trying to pay down debt, say you have a $20,000 credit card, trying to pay that down. But if you sell something in real estate, you're going to be able to wipe that out.
And I went through a similar thing too. I had a student loan. Once I graduated university, I was around 23, and I bought my first place, and I lived there for 2 years, and it was hard for me to manage living on my own in that particular property. And I had fallen into collection arrears with my student loan debt, and I sold that property and it wiped out the debt, and I still had cash left to buy a new place. And I didn't have all of that revolving debt payment every month. And so that just showed me a really powerful, thing that hold on a second here. Real estate is actually an investment. You can take money out of it and then use it, to cover off other things and to build and to really build wealth. And so I'm really curious. So you had enough information to know that you and your then partner wanted to buy a place. And then once you moved out and, you sold the property and then you had some cash left over and you went through it. What was your mindset? Like, I'm trying to really understand the mindset around money. Was it a goal to purchase again?
Well, even purchasing in the first place I didn't see it as an investment or a way to make money. I just saw it as that's what you do. I'm in a serious relationship. We've just got engaged now. We're going to buy something.
So real estate was more related for you to
as just a
being
step
a relationship.
In life.
Yes.
Like that's,
yeah,
and
got
you know,
it.
so when we broke up and did all that, I didn't even really think. I just thought at some point, probably in my back of my mind, my subconscious was, when I'm in another committed relationship, I'll just buy something else with someone. The money will come again. I wish that I had someone in my life like that said to you, take that money and invest it into something else. You know, because yes, okay, trips are great and traveling is great and clothing is great, but like, I can't live in it.
Yeah.
Can't eat it. Can't pay off my debt with it, you know? So I really wish I had taken that chunk of money and maybe not even paid off all my debt. And like you said, because as I'm learning from you, like not all debt is bad debt.
Right, and so credit card debt, certainly bad debt. You want to take care of that. The reason is that it's a really high interest rate. So I mean, in most credit cards, you're paying anywhere between 19 and 21% interest, and only paying the minimum payment, it is going to take you 25 years to pay it off, you know? And they show that now on credit card statements. They tell you, if you only make your minimum payment, this is how long it's going to take you.
Yeah, I avoid reading that.
Yeah, you avoid reading that. So high interest debt you definitely want to pay off, but I do believe that you should attack your debt strategically. There are ways to invest and pay off your debt simultaneously. And that's just something I think a lot of people, you know, we're now living in an age of information and we have access to so much information, and you've got to really weed through the good and the bad information to find out what's going to work for you. Yeah. You know, if you're attacking debt and also investing at the same time, it just sends a different message to your brain. Hold on, I'm actually moving along here. So sure, wipe out your credit card debt. But if you've got a low interest line of credit, it's not a bad idea to attack it at a smaller rate, because if you're investing and you're making maybe 8 to 10% returns in the market, well, your 4% line of credit is not that bad because you're beating that on the investment side, right? And so that's one message that I think a lot of people don't have. Even when saving to buy a place, it's always, well, no, pay off all debt first, because all debt is bad debt.
Well, and that's been my mindset since is, okay, I'll get back into real estate once I take care of this debt, but the way I'm going, I will never pay this debt off. Unless I make a better investment, a smarter choice.
And that's where owning real estate, you can actually make money through real estate that in a couple of years can pay off the debt, much like the exact situation that you experienced, and myself as well. So, but tell me a little bit more about even like growing up, like what were your money habits? How did those form?
My parents, and they're gonna watch this, so I'll be careful. They're not the best with money. They're immigrants here, and you know, they worked their butts off, and you know, working 2-3 different jobs when they first got here. My dad is very frugal, cheap, doesn't like to spend money. Came from a big family with nothing, so he just doesn't spend money because he doesn't care about anything. He's not really too much into fashion or this or that. So there's not big ticket items really for him to spend money. He's happy to like stitch up his socks and wear the same, you know what I mean? But it's not so much that he's good with money. He's just not really spending it on the things I would spend with. My mom is a shopaholic, definitely where I get it from. Like both my mom and I can go into a fishing store. We don't fish. We could find something to buy in there. We just like to spend money. So my parents' mindset was always like, do as we say, not as we do. You need to learn to save. You need to learn to be better with your money. But then they weren't doing it themselves, and they weren't teaching me. Okay, so how? How do you be better with money? And what's the next step?
And this is a challenge, right? Because we want to do better, but we don't always have the tools, and our parents didn't have the tools to show us what that is. And I mean, my dad's Jamaican, and that culturally, it is a real big. The message is work and accumulate, like. Get the money, but there isn't really any follow-up.
And what's next?
You know,
and so pay down. My parents were like, get rid of debt, be debt-free, be mortgage-free, and save. But then what are you saving for?
Yeah.
That money is just sitting in a bank account.
Yeah, earning almost nothing. But when you look at what the bank's doing with your money, they're investing it. They're investing in companies, they're investing in real estate. So it's a really interesting, dichotomy that they want you to save your money with them, but that's not what they're doing.
No.
So, definitely learned some bad. And like my mom,
obviously love her very much, but she was very, when she wanted something, she would buy it and she would put it on a credit card or that, and it was always hide it from my dad. Hide, like, don't tell your dad. I can vividly remember coming home from a shopping trip. My mom would be like, okay, I'm gonna talk to dad. You guys run upstairs with the bags, you know? And so we would run up quickly and hide. And so, but that just kind of put me in this mentality of when I want something, I don't wait and work to be able to afford it. I just find a way to get it. And if that's put it on another credit card, increase my limit, I would just always just get it, because you'll worry about it later. And that's been like one really bad habit I've definitely picked up from my mom. So thanks, Mom. Thank you for that.
So, okay, tell me where you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from now.
I definitely want to get back into real estate. I definitely want to be able to own my own property where I can live, but I would also like some income properties. I don't want to just have one house and that's it. I don't want to stop there. When I've watched like what you've been doing and other people in real estate, how they're able to, you know, keep the wealth going, have generational wealth, I want to be able to own multiple properties. I want real estate to be like a side hustle of mine while I'm still doing, like, hopefully I'm still in radio, I still have my TV dreams. I feel like there's just so many different things you can do. So I would love to just take on some more projects, but I would love to be financially stable.
Yeah, so it's more of a choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a necessity. And what would you say to your younger self? What advice would you give your younger self?
Definitely, you know what, I would say to start some sort of savings as a younger person, get that instilled in you as a younger person. Learn how to budget. Budget to me is still like, pardon? Yeah. What is that? So just to learn some real life money management skills from a young age would have been great for me. And definitely, I think the biggest thing has been now with going through real estate is I would have taken that money and instead of going to Jamaica, I would have put it into another property. And also learning something I'm learning from you too, I can do it on my own. I don't have to be engaged and getting married. I don't have to be married. I don't have to have a partner. I can, you know, or get an investment partner, a joint venture situation, but you don't just have to be in a relationship to afford real estate.
No, and I think that's some wise advice.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think also with the advice is to speak to experts. And that's been a huge thing when we were on Clubhouse the other day having the conversation that you girls were saying, you know, don't go, when I wanted to get into real estate, my parents had opinions, my ex's parents had opinions, everybody's like throwing their 2 cents, where you should buy, you shouldn't invest, you shouldn't do that. And I think too often we just listen to whoever's in our ear, you know, and especially if it's like your parent or someone you look up to, you just take their advice. But I think with real estate, with money, you need to speak to an expert. And I'm not good with money, so I need to go to a financial advisor.
Yep.
And if you have something wrong with your foot, you're not going to a plastic surgeon. That doesn't make any sense.
True.
But
it's true.
All too often, we do that. We take advice from our dad, who is not a real estate investor.
And even more important than that is we have to even understand the context with which people are giving advice, because they're well-intended, right?
Yeah.
Like, my parents were well-intended in telling me to pay off my mortgage, but I know better now, because when I look at people who are, you know, owning multiple properties and you know, who are very financially stable, they're leveraging and they're pulling money out of one property to buy another one. And you know, this is how they're multiplying, and this is how they're building up their little mini empire or their big nest egg. And so I want to look at what they're doing and just quiet the voice of my dad, who's in the back of the head, like, oh, just pay off your mortgage, just pay it off. You know, because paying it off doesn't help you, because it just locks the money in a place that's just harder to access, right? And you need money to make money.
I got really scared with my parents because they're both retired now. My dad was planning to retire and at the start of COVID. My mom had already retired, and then my dad was like, okay, we're at home anyway, let's do it now. But they downsized from our childhood home and got rid of their debt, bought a townhouse, and ended up hating it. Too small, my mom's only hobby is gardening, and there was not really a yard. So they went and got a brand new mortgage and bought a house again. And I remember just being terrified for them. Like, now you're starting this all over again, whereas now I'm realizing, no, because now they're putting their money into something and they have this investment that I will take over, I guess, one day. But like, at first I was scared for them. Why would you want to start a whole new mortgage? You got rid of all that. But now I'm seeing what a great investment it is for them, even as retirees.
Yeah. And with the real estate, even if they get to a point where they no longer want to live there, they can rent it out, or they can sell it and then purchase something else. So I mean, there's just so many more options available. On behalf of the Build Up team, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Instagram at BuildUpDevCo, or we are on Clubhouse, the Real Estate Wealth Club.